Hey, DJ, I want to watch a superhero movie. Are there any new Marvel movies out?
Not at the moment.
What about DC?
I'm not sure.
Darn. Looks like we're going to have to settle for that Sylvester Stallone superhero movie on Amazon. Ugh.
We're a couple of guys who like to watch movies, cinema nerds who made it our duty to make a show where we break down, discuss, and review. We're the men who watch movies.
Hello and welcome to another episode of The Men Who Watch Movies. My name is Alec.
And my name's TJ, the Movie Man Wagner, also known as the COE, the
Yes.
Chairman of Entertainment.
I'm liking that new title.
Yep.
And we have another wonderful episode for you today. We watched Samaritan on Amazon Prime streaming service.
Woohoo!
And boy, was it a ride.
Woohoo!
But we'll
Like
get
a roller
to that.
coaster of many, many movies, and it was
Yeah, we have a lot to say about that
mystery.
one. It was, yeah, I'll have to say it was interesting.
Yeah.
Don't worry, we're going to have some spoilers about it, but we're going to let you know when we're going to get into spoilers. So,
We're gonna let you know,
proceed
guys.
with
Don't
caution
worry.
and enjoy the ride. But for now, we're going to get into that little segment that tells you all about what's going on in the industry and, what to look forward to in the realm of cinema. We're getting into
This week in
movie news. All right, we got some interesting stories for you here today. First, Gary Busey continues to be very inappropriate. Remember last week we told you about how he allegedly touched some individuals at a horror convention over in New Jersey, and the story just keeps getting weirder and weirder.
You mean MonsterCon?
Yeah, MonsterCon, that's the one. And apparently Gary Busey was caught in California sitting on a bench with his pants down. He says he wasn't doing anything inappropriate. He was just doing some kind of stretching or something. But I don't know. That's a little suspect to me. There's no reason why he should have his pants down in public. No one wants to see that. Yeah, disgusting. There's some pictures online, which I'll pop up. I'll pop up right here in our little movie news picture thing.
Yep.
I don't know. What do you think? Do you think he can come back from this disgrace?
Well, if it depends. Gary Busey is a wonderful, wonderful actor back in his day, but
Yeah, it's been a while.
Oh,
since,
boy.
it's been a while since he has had the title of a wonderful actor. But, I don't know.
yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. I don't want to jump to judgment, but it looks like he's just being disgusting. Anyway, moving on. Matt Shankman is to direct the Fantastic Four movie. They found their new director after the Spider-Man, the director of the Spider-Man series had dropped out.
oh,
So yeah. I'm really looking forward to seeing what Marvel can do with the Fantastic Four. Do you think they're going to keep John Krasinski as
well,
Mr. Fantastic?
I'm hearing rumors that they're going to keep John Krasinski or they're going to get someone else. I have no idea, but
Yeah,
I wish
it's
they
all
would just pick
speculation
it.
at this
Just
point.
pick John Krasinski. He's the perfect fit. He's awesome. You should get Emily Blunt to play Susan
Yeah, I know.
Storm.
That's been
Freaking badass.
that's been the fan casting. Supposedly, Feige included Krasinski just as like a little Easter egg for the fans who wanted him. They said he said that since it's a multiverse movie, they can include him without having to commit to having him as Reed Richards. So we'll see what happens. But the new Fantastic Four film goes into production next year, and it will reportedly release on November 8th of 2024. And of course, that can change. They're always moving around, movie release dates. So we'll see what happens. Which, it could go either way. I don't know. A lot of people are saying that Marvel quality has gone downhill. I mean, it definitely doesn't have the oomph that it once had when it first came out. But I'm still on this wild ride, and I'm
so positive on the stuff. I am always positive.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's what's better than being positive, right?
Yep.
I mean, they're still doing better than Warner Brothers at this point, which
well, pretty
brings me to my next story. Of course, we talked about how they canceled the Batgirl movie that was supposed to come out on HBO Max. There's all kinds of weird financial issues going on with Warner Brothers. Not going to get into all of that, not to get too off topic.
Let's get too off topic.
But Batgirl, since its cancellation, it's beginning funeral screenings. So I guess the crew and whatnot have been kind of doing some screenings of whatever footage they had in remembrance of the movie that is never to be. Hopefully,
I hope they bring it back.
Hopefully someone sneaks in a little video camera and then maybe they can get some footage to the public.
Yeah,
we've been wanting
like
to see the famously canceled Batgirl movie, so hopefully we can see some footage from that.
That would be great.
Happens all the time. So
well, there's a lot of people in movie theaters with phone cameras and they're filming stuff, and all of a sudden they're like,
they could just pop up their camera real quick and get us some footage, get us some exclusive footage of Batgirl. I mean, they do it. I mean, back in the day, with the famous canceled Fantastic Four movie by Roger Corman, they got that to us somehow, and we're grateful for it. It's actually, for being so silly, it's actually a pretty good movie. Have you ever seen the Fantastic Four canceled movie from the 90s?
I have not seen it, but I have seen Scanners with Michael Ironside, and it is badass.
What? Okay.
What?
Yeah, I think you can watch it on YouTube in its entirety, if I'm not mistaken. If they haven't taken it down yet, but
So what is it like? Is it like a?
It's pretty. It's very like low budget B movie, but it's like the little movie that could, with what little technology they had, they actually did a great job. Just go. I would recommend to watch it. Maybe we should do a commentary on it or something. But it's a really fun movie for what it is.
Watch it on the computer.
Oh yeah, we could do that.
Do a video reaction.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah, it is. It's pretty good. It's better than the Fan Four Stick, the Fantastic Four reboot they did a few years ago. And I don't want to get in all that.
Let's get too off topic.
And Shazam! Fury of the Gods is now delayed to March 17th, 2023, as well as Aquaman, The Lost Kingdom. That's also delayed to December 25th, 2023. I'm guessing this has to do with DC just reformulating itself and trying to pull back the pieces of a destroyed company. And hopefully they can get their shiz together and, build back the DC universe. DC deserves so much better than what we got. There might be a little bit of a hot take because I know that you got some, Zack Snyder fans out there, hardcore Zack Snyder fans. Anyway, we'll see what happens.
Yep.
And there's a little bit more of rumors surrounding the Fantastic Four movie. Reportedly, Marvel has spoken with an actor named Penn Badgley about playing the role of Reed Richards. So, so maybe they aren't keeping John Krasinski. We'll see.
Oh yeah, maybe they're gonna put that guy in there. Maybe it'll work.
Yeah, he's. I don't know if you've seen. It's like a Netflix series, I believe. It's called. It's called You. It's about this stalker or something, and I don't know. But he kind of has that Reed Richards look. I don't know. I've never seen You, so I can't test to his personality being Reed Richards like, but he's an actor. I'm sure he can pull something out of his ass. Anyway, so who knows where we'll be with that. Also, they're making apparently another sequel to Beverly Hills Cop.
Oh, that looks.
You don't look too excited.
Well, I mean, what is it gonna be with Eddie Murphy?
Yeah, actually, it is. It's not a reboot. I mean, of course, the originals were classics. I mean, it's hard to follow up. I think with the success of Top Gun, it probably influenced their decision to greenlight this. But apparently, it's going to be like a fourth installment. It's going to have Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Taylor Page. And they're going to star alongside Eddie Murphy, and it's going to be called Beverly Hills Cop: Axel Foley. Any opinions on that?
Oh, it looks really, really good. Fans of Eddie Murphy. Back when he was in his acting phase. He was a singer back then.
Oh yeah, I love his singing. Remember Party All the Time?
Oh yeah, his singing is like he has like a high pitch, like high
Party
voice.
all the time, party all the time. I think something like that. Anyway, moving on. And for our last bit of movie news, The Rise of Gru has pushed past $500 million at the box office. It's reached the 4th highest grossing movie of the year so far. Have you seen The Rise of Gru?
Yep.
Oh, you did?
It's
How'd you like it?
awesome. I mean, like, the Minions franchise is awesome. Despicable Me 1, 2, 3. It's awesome. Steve Carell is awesome. You gotta...
Yeah, I've seen like the first couple of them. They're pretty funny. It's mostly like a kids kind of thing, but
I know.
It's always entertaining to see Steve
It's so
Carell
funny.
do his
You
thing.
got Steve Carell as Gru, and he is so funny. Maybe I'm just spitballing here, but maybe maybe when he was in the Office TV series, maybe he was doing voices before Despicable Me. Because that movie was made in 2010.
Yeah, he's always done like sketch comedy and whatnot. So I mean, he's used to doing voices.
Well,
so it's a natural.
In the Office, so he's a pro.
It's a natural transition, I'm sure, to go into from doing some crazy acting and then doing the voices and whatnot. And I'm sure he was perfect for for doing stuff like that. Yeah. And this brings us to a close in This Week in Movie News. Now let's get on to the podcast. So we saw Samaritan starring the great thespian Sylvester Stallone. And man, I must say, he
was angry.
I didn't know what I expected going in. I was hoping for a little bit. I knew what I was kind of getting into. I figured it wasn't going to be the best of quality. And it didn't disappoint in that aspect. It was just looking at the pictures. It reminded me of what's that movie with Shaquille O'Neal?
Steel.
It reminded me of Steel, and I got to say it wasn't far from that, which is not a compliment.
Well, Steel was very, very funny.
It's good for a laugh, and I feel like this had some of the same qualities. It's like if you took Steel, and you squished it with Unbreakable, and you shattered out the ass of Hollywood. This is what this movie is. It's steel. Yeah. It's Unbreakable Steel. And I must say, I mean, it was very entertaining.
Yeah, Stallone has that angry, heroic stuff, but they did some really good special effects with the CGI and whatnot, and I really liked it.
So you and I have a different opinion on the quality of the special effects.
I love the CGI.
I felt like it looked very
awesome.
amateur.
But Sylvester Stallone just, he just carries it on with that gray beard and that awesomeness, and he's like,
I mean, he has that sense of wanting. You can tell he wanted to do like some kind of old school like action flick, and then incorporate that kind of element into a superhero type movie. You can kind of get hints of like classic Stallone in there, but he just seems. I mean, he is an old man,
Well, yeah, I mean, he's in his 70s, 80s, 90s, 100.
I don't know. He looks 100, but I'm sure he's younger than that.
He's angry.
Yeah. So let's get into a little bit about what the movie's about.
Yep.
The movie starts off with a flashback, and so there's these two superheroes. They're brothers, and there's one called Samaritan,
Nemesis.
who's the good guy, and there's a villain called Nemesis.
Yep.
And it turns out they were, like I said, they were brothers, and they would get scrutinized in their town because I don't know if they got into fights, maybe they were bullied, and they were so strong they would accidentally hurt people, and so they were kind of chastised in the community, and they were kind of run out of town, and an angry mob burnt their house down, and it killed their parents. They might have been inside at the time, but they're like, like I said, they're almost like unbreakable. Where they can't get hurt. They're indestructible. They're bulletproof. They're super strong.
Yep.
So they survived, but the parents died, and they kind of split off into good and evil. Samaritan, he decided to help people, and what's the Nemesis? He decided that he was going to take revenge, and he had this whole plot like to take down the power grid for some reason and whatnot, and so one day he realized that he couldn't take down the city without getting rid of his brother. So he forged this hammer, right? It was like some kind of sledgehammer.
Yeah, I mean, what was that about? That just surprised us.
I think that's what reminded me of Still the most is the sledgehammer weapon. But it was kind of silly because he forged the sledgehammer out of the pure hatred for his brother. Like, how do you forge a sledgehammer out of pure hatred?
Maybe he was angry.
How do you forge a hammer out of that? I don't know. It was hilarious. The way they worded it. Like, yeah. So he forged this super sledgehammer out of the pure hatred for his brother, and it was the super weapon that was going to take him down. And they have like this one last big battle in the city, like on top of a building or something, and there's a huge explosion, and they were rumored to have died in the explosion, and that was the end of Samaritan and Nemesis, which the names are very silly. It sounds like something a kid would come up with, like when they're doodling and making their own little comic book out of crayons. Samaritan and Nemesis.
Yeah, it's in Greek, Nemesis means enemy or something like that. In Greek mythology,
really?
Nemesis means enemy, and
yeah, that's why I think that's why it's so like. I feel like they could have come up with more creative names. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I don't know who came up with that one, but it's like I said, it sounds like something a kid would come up with.
Very creative.
Very uncreative.
But it is what it is.
Yeah, and then that whole intro, like flashback scene, it looked so cheap. They tried making it look like a comic book, but it looked like it had a bad Photoshop filter over it. It was just it was kind of embarrassing. It looks like something I could come up with really quick on.
In a way, the movie is like so different. It's nuanced. It's very
You're very kind to this movie.
It's very, very original.
Right.
Very different in its way.
It's interesting.
In its own positive way.
It made me laugh.
It's different.
Even though I don't think it was trying to make me laugh.
But it's got Stallone, so he has an
that was a
face,
bonus.
And he's beating the shit out of bad people.
That was fun.
Those
are the moments that I like the most. Just seeing Stallone just go ham on people, and then it was almost unbelievable because he's so old. But the fact
strong.
that he was supposed to have superpowers, it made it
ice cream.
It made it forgivable. Oh yeah, we'll get to that in a moment. But in this movie, he eats a lot of ice cream
To make himself awesome.
Ice cream is awesome. Anyway, so there's it flashes forward to modern day. So there's this kid named Sam Cleary, and he comes from a low income family, single mom. She's a nurse. They're kind of struggling to get money. So he's a good kid, but he's kind of running around. He's alone a lot of the times because his mom's at work. She's a nurse, so it's she's on duty a lot of the times, and so he just kind of by himself running the streets, and they're struggling to make rent, so he kind of gets into little sticky situations trying to get some money to make up for the lack of income, and so he's hanging around with bad people. He's not a bad person, but he's hanging around with bad people. He runs into this kid who convinces him to go with him to rip copper wiring out of a wall in an abandoned apartment building.
Yep.
And then they said, the kid, his name is Jace. And then Jace says, like, oh, we're going to go and take this to Cyrus. And he's like, oh, you didn't tell me this is for Cyrus. And it turns out Cyrus is he's like the big crime boss of the area. And he's just like very cartoony, villainy dude. He has like a Viking beard, and I don't know. He's like a faux hawk, right, or something like that.
In a way, he's so angry and full of rage, full of hatred. No wonder he built that hammer out of anger and hatred.
Well, it wasn't him who built the hammer, but he is a fan. Turns out he is a fan of Nemesis, and there's kind of like a little bit of a fandom going on between people who liked Nemesis and people who liked Samaritan. The main character, Sam, he is a big fan of Samaritan, and he has like this big thing going on where he's trying to see if Samaritan's still alive. He believes he's still alive, and he even communicates with this like conspiracy theorist online and in person, actually. I think he works at some kind of bookstore or something. He's the teacher. I think he's one of the teachers from Spider-Man.
Oh
right?
yeah, that was him.
Yeah, I forget the actor's name, but he's like talking with this conspiracy theorist, and he has like this, like a typical movie fashion. They have like newspaper clippings on the wall, and they're like tied together with like red, what is it called, the yarn or whatever, and they have like
Red
the push
yarn
pins,
stuff.
and like the crazy like killer
Detective
maps and stuff
stuff.
like that. And so
Like
he has
Sherlock
one of
Holmes
those
would
on his
use.
wall, and then they're trying to find out,
It's detective work.
Yeah.
Like a web of clues.
yeah, exactly. He has like a web of clues on the wall, trying to find out if Samaritan's still alive. And the kid is obsessed with Samaritan, trying to figure out if he's still out there because he's rumored to have survived the explosion that supposedly killed him and his brother.
But he's alive.
Well,
Very much alive.
We'll get to that in a moment. We don't want to spoil anything here.
Dun dun dun.
We're gonna get into spoilers, but we'll keep it. We'll let you guys know. Oh yeah. So anyway, like I said, he gets involved with the big crime boss Cyrus, and Cyrus ends up having him do like a small job for him to see if he could trust him. So he acts as like a lookout, or no, he acts as like a distraction. Right? They go to this convenience store, and he pretends like he got hit by a car, and he comes in. They put like hot sauce on his head or something, right?
Yeah.
And he goes up to like the convenience store owner. He's like, "Oh, and I got hit by a car. I need you to help me. I call 911." And the guy's like, "Oh, I don't need this shit today." Supposedly a kid got hit by a car, and he's like, "Fuck this shit." And then and he goes up to him, and he realizes that he smells like hot sauce, and he's like snips his head. He's like, "This is hot sauce." And then he realizes he's being duped. And then the crew that went with him, they steal like boxes. I think they think they're stealing boxes of like lottery scratchers.
Yep.
But it turns out it's like something else entirely in there, right? Like what?
Yep.
They mess up and they grab the wrong boxes, and
Yep.
it's like something useless stored in the boxes. So they get chewed out by Cyrus. And then the group that's running with the main character, Sam, his name is Reza, and he has like his group of Goonies. Reza is played by, he's a kid that's been in not Napoleon Dynamite. What was it? Nacho Libre. His name is Moises Arias, and he plays one of the kids at the monastery. I recognized him right away. He has a very unique looking face. I just don't know. I thought it was hilarious. It was hard to take him serious as like a. He has like dreadlocks, and he was supposed to be like this kind of tough guy. I think it was funny because he's like a regular like Nickelodeon kid, and it was just I couldn't really believe him as like a tough guy, like gang member running around. It was fun, kind of funny, but yeah. And so Reza and his team get mad at Sam because they say that he fucked up, and now Cyrus is mad at them, and so. Yeah, it causes a whole bunch of issues. So anyway, the gang led by Reza, they get mad at Sam for causing them money because Cyrus doesn't give him shit because he thinks that it's them that fucked up, and they blame Sam. So they start chasing him through the streets, and then we see Sylvester Stallone sitting on a bus that almost runs over Sam, and he sees them chasing Sam, and so he decides to intervene. He gets off the bus. And he beats the shit out of these guys, and it's pretty good fight scene. And they try. I think it was Reza that tries stabbing Sylvester Stallone.
And Sylvester has a very, very good grip. He's strong.
Yeah, he has that strong grip, and he crushes the knife. And he realizes, Sam realizes that, hey, maybe this is Samaritan. He's been looking for Samaritan all along, and he's like, maybe, because I guess Sylvester Stallone's character, his name is Joe. He's like, maybe
Joe Smith.
Yeah, it's like something like that, right? It's like Joe. Is it Joe Smith?
Yep.
So maybe he's thinking like, hey, maybe this Joe guy that's my neighbor, maybe he's Samaritan. So he starts talking with the conspiracy theorist guy. And then he's like, "Oh yeah, what are the chances that you live next to Samaritan? We've been looking for him for years, and you just happen to live next to him." And he pulls out the knife, and he's like, "Hey, look at this! Like I saw him get in a fight, and he crushed this knife." And he's like, "Are you sure it wasn't like that before the fight?" And he's like, "No, I saw it happen." He's like, "Kid, you're gonna need more than word of mouth and a crushed knife to for me to believe you." But the kid thinks he's onto something. He's seen what he's seen, and he thinks he found Samaritan.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, and so like he's been spying on him and stuff. It's kind of creepy. He's like looking into his apartment building, and he sees
you see a scarred up old back.
Yeah, he sees Joe with the shirt off and his scarred back, and then even that guy, the conspiracy theorist guy, he's like, I find it weird that you're just staring in the windows of old men. Like it's weird. And then he's like, no, I wasn't. I was just seeing if I could find out if he's Samaritan and whatnot. That was a little odd.
Yep.
Yeah.
Random.
And then so later on we see Cyrus, the crime lord or whatever he is. He's back with this crew of evil villains, and we see that they have some plan going on. Like I said earlier, he's a big fan of Nemesis, and we find out that he has a plan to finish what Nemesis started. Apparently, back in the day, Nemesis wanted to blow the power grid and cause chaos just because he's evil. And I don't think they go beyond explaining more than that. I don't know I don't know his exact plan. I can't speak today, but
we don't know his exact plan. But
but he wanted to
so much different stuff in there.
Yeah, he wanted to like shut off the power grid for what reason?
Because he's a evil man and just wants to, do some evil shit.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much the explanation. He wants to shut off the power grid because he's evil. I think they say like he wants to cause chaos, and he's supposedly going to fight for the people that aren't being fought for or whatever. It is some bullshit. It's like very base level, one-dimensional villain shit.
Yep.
Yeah, and so
it adds all this stuff and this crazy stuff. But it's still a good movie.
Yeah, well, we'll get into that later. Anyway, Cyrus and his crew, they dress as like a SWAT team or police, like a police officers, and they go into this storage facility, and it's like it supposedly has like all this like evidence and stuff that's been confiscated and whatnot, and there's like only like one inept guard just kind of behind the gate there, and apparently they get a hold of these things called blackout bombs. I guess they're like EMPs
in a way,
but then he gets it and he puts it. There's like that guard there. Yeah, there's like a guard there, and it has like a little slot where you can drop in like paperwork and whatnot. He drops the blackout bomb into the little slot, and then he blows up the guy, and it like vaporizes him into black smoke, and it reminds me of like the you've seen Stranger Things, right?
Oh yeah,
reminds me of the Upside Down with like all that weird like it almost looks like black ash drifting everywhere, and it's like this weird like electricity thing. It was just some weird bullshit like bomb thing that they came up with. It like vaporized this guy, and it shut down the lights and whatnot. And then those bombs aren't very consistent, because there's some scenes where they blow up like a huge like bomb, and there's some other scenes where they just like vaporize people like in a puff of smoke. It's just weird. And anyway, so they break into this facility that's only guarded by like one guy, and it turns out he was looking for the hammer that Nemesis forged out of pure hatred, and because he's a Nemesis fanboy. And so he wants to become the new Nemesis, and so he steals Nemesis's
hammer,
and he steals his mask, because apparently they recovered it from this massive explosion that killed both of them supposedly. And now he's the new Nemesis. He's gonna finish the evil plan to cause chaos and destroy the power grid and drive the city into chaos. And I don't know. What do you think so far?
So far,
about
it's
his evil plan.
Really, really random stuff in the movie, but all in all, pretty awesome effects.
Yeah, that's just like your opinion, man. Anyway, Reza and the crew, they see Joe. And they want to get revenge on him because he beat the shit out of him in the alley, and so they decide that they're gonna try and get him. And then meanwhile, Sam he keeps chasing after him, saying, "I know you're Samaritan. I've seen you in that fight. You have to be Samaritan." And he keeps like, "Go away, kid. You don't know what you're talking about." And all of a sudden, Reza and his crew, they run over Joe, and he looks like he got killed, but he reforms himself.
Dun, dun, dun.
What did you think of that scene?
That was weird, but something out of a superhero movie. I mean, it looks
yeah.
pretty awesome.
Yeah, so he gets run over, and then Sam thinks he's dead. He's like, "Oh my god," and all of a sudden he wakes up, and his bones start coming back together and whatnot. And then he's like, "You are him. You are Samaritan. No other person would be able to survive that." And then he runs off, and he goes back into his apartment because apparently in the healing process his body overheats. So what does he do?
He has to drink cold liquids or like eat ice cream and whatnot.
Yeah, so he has to cool down his body because apparently there's some kind of thing with like fission or it's like cellular fission or something like that. Some weird bullshit where his body overheats, and he describes it almost as like a heat stroke in his body, but it like times a billion. And if he doesn't cool down his body, his heart will explode. So the first thing he does, he runs in, takes a cold shower, and like there's steam coming off his body everywhere. And then he has this like, a refrigerator just filled with ice cream. And then he's explaining to the kid, like, if I don't cool down my body, my heart will explode and whatnot. And he's like, "Why don't you just drink ice water?" He's like, "I don't like the taste." I don't know. It's
Random.
crazy. Yeah, it is random. And I don't know. It just, I don't know who came up with that.
I have no idea, but it was just
wild,
random and just still a pretty good indie movie. So thumbs up.
I don't know if it's considered indie. I mean, it's made by MGM, so.
Well, it's still owned by Stallone, so
Yeah.
legendary actor, but still angry in the movie.
Yeah. And then Sam is kind of he continues to talk to Joe about how why he likes Samaritan so much, and he's saying that one night I guess his dad used to be a kind of criminal, and that's why Sam is kind of into that same stuff. He used to like lift cars and whatnot, and one night I guess Samaritan ended up saving him or something like that, and so that's why he's also like a big fan of Samaritan. He believes that he's he's good and he's needed in the city. That's why he wants to find him so badly, and he has that kind of connection with Samaritan and whatnot. Anyway, Cyrus and the crew cause a blackout, and they're starting to gain a following, as the new Nemesis. And they're trying to throw the city into chaos because evil. And there's like a group of like 10 people. They're rioting around the streets, and then I guess like the police are corrupt, and whatever police aren't corrupt, they're on strike. And it's one of those. It's like almost like a Gotham situation where
very, very much like
right?
Batman.
Yeah,
very,
me a lot
very
of, like,
different.
Gotham
chaos and a lot of weird stuff in the movie. But it is pretty much like the comic books.
Yeah.
Or if it was like a comic book, I have no idea.
Yeah, I think the city that they live in is called Granite City, because he does a lot of monologues. Cyrus, he does like those typical villain monologues where he'll just stand in the middle of the street and be like, I think he says something like, "Granite City will be ours. Who comes to help the helpless? We're going to help the people that were left behind, and it's time to take back what's ours." It's like a lot of that typical like, villainy, monologue bullshit.
In the 90s.
Very, very cartoonish.
Very different.
Yeah. And then it's just like a bunch of like I said, it's like a group of like 10 or 20 people. They start mobbing, and they're all wearing like beanies or face masks, and they look, it's like typical like bad guy, running around the city kind of look. Anyway, Joe keeps having like bad dreams about the fight with his brother on the rooftop, and the whole thing that supposedly killed Nemesis and Samaritan, and he sees on the news about the city going into chaos, and I think he's slowly realizing that something needs to be done, but he's reluctant to return, to a life of like heroism and whatnot. He's just tired. He wants nothing to do with that life anymore, of having superpowers, and he just seems to he wants to be left alone. But he's slowly pushed out into the limelight again, much to his chagrin. And yeah. Anyway, so I guess there's at some point he needs some money for something, right? So Joe goes down to the pawn shop, and he's going to pawn a camera off for something for some reason. And then Sam just follows him because he's always following him like a little stalker.
Yeah, I mean, it's just...
And then so he decides to come along with him, but he's like, you got to wait outside, kid. And he goes to pawn off the camera. I guess he's friends with the pawn shop owner. For some reason, like, even though he knows he's super strong, he decides to rip the doorknob off the pawn shop. And the guy's like, what the fuck? That's like solid brass. What are you doing? And he's like, oh, brass with age gets older and it gets weaker. And I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. He just broke the poor guy's door. He's an old man who owns a pawn shop. Anyway... Not to get too off topic.
Let's get too off topic.
He sells like the camera for $25 and whatnot. He continues to, walk along. I don't know the point of that whole scene anyway. It was just kind of random little detour at the pawn shop, and he continues to have a discussion with Sam about Samaritan and the whole like hero thing. And he's like, the city shouldn't rely on freaks with powers to take care of the problems or something like that. He's like, the city should take care of its own problems. Otherwise, all the problems are going to take care of them or something. He tries to be philosophical. Anyway, so finally, Joe goes home and he sees on the TV the Return of Nemesis. So apparently, he sees Cyrus wearing the old Nemesis mask and he has the helmet. The news is reporting that Nemesis may have returned to finish off what he started. And of course, Joe, he's startled by this information, and he's so startled that he's holding a bowl of cereal, and he cracks his cereal bowl, and which I don't know. I guess it was supposed to show that his strength or something, but it's like a cheap plastic cereal bowl. I probably could have cracked it with one hand. I don't know what the point of that was, and it looked very badly CGI'd in there. I don't know. It was kind of hilarious. Yeah, and. Yeah. So at this point, Sam is wanting Joe to teach him how to fight. At first, he's like, no, that's a bad idea. He's like, come on, I guess because, he's been kind of a wimp and he wants to learn how to defend himself. He's been getting into these tough situations lately, and he figures I have a superhero here that's my neighbor that can help me. So he's like, okay, meet me up on the roof, after I get back from work or whatnot. So he meets him up there, and he's kind of teaching him how to fight. He's like, show me your moves, kid. And he does like this kind of like weird, like quick boxing moves, right? It reminded me of like a little bit of Rocky training or something like that. Yeah, and so he's like, ooh, who taught you how to do that? He's like, oh, my dad taught me a little bit about fighting, but I stopped learning, after he died and whatnot. He's like, here, give me a punch, and he puts out his hand. That reminds me of like Rocky, And then he like punches his hand, but very like lightly. He's like, no, come on, hit harder. It's hard to miss. I guess I don't know if he's saying because his hand is big or something. And then he's like about to try and like brawl with him, and he's like, and he kind of backs off. He's like, why am I like this? Why do I back off when when I'm about to get into a fight? Like I want to be able to go in like head first and whatnot. He says something because it's like, oh, because you were raised right. It's not always a bad thing to run away. And he's like, but what if like, what if it was like my mom or something getting beaten up or like, that was being threatened or something. He's like, well, it wouldn't be good to run away then, right? Well, he's like, we could just sucker punch him and then run away. It's like, but I guess he's saying that in a roundabout way that it's okay, to be scared sometimes and to know when to fold them. You know when to walk away and know when to run.
Yep.
Just like Kenny Rogers said.
Yep.
Anyway.
The great singer.
Yeah. Not to get too off topic.
Not to get too off topic.
And then and the kid pulls out a sucker punch on Joe's stomach. And, of course, he's built like a brick house. And he doesn't break his hand, but he like hurts his hand really badly punching his stomach. He's like, what did you think? Why'd you do that for? I'm built like I'm built like a wall. And so he takes him back and then ices his hand. So after Sam, gets his hand all iced up, he sees Cyrus and he goes back with him to his like evil warehouse of doom. And at this point, he doesn't know Cyrus is like a bad guy. He doesn't know that he's or he doesn't know that he's turned into the new Nemesis. Because at this point, he's kind of a gray area. Because, like I said, he's been running around doing work for Cyrus, getting extra money for his mom and whatnot. And so there's kind of It's kind of a bit of a gray area between good and bad. He meets up with Cyrus's crew, and he even talks to one of his crew members, who says all the good things that Cyrus has done for them. Because I guess a lot of these people running around the streets, they have no family, and Cyrus is like their family and gave them, this warehouse to live in, this evil Nemesis warehouse or whatever. And, it's kind of like their own little found family, I guess. So you're kind of seeing the good side of the bad guys. And so it's kind of a blurred line.
Good side of the bad guys.
Yeah, so it's kind of a blurred line. And
but they're still bad guys.
Yeah, the movie makes no mistake of letting you know that these are bad guys.
Yep.
But Sam, I guess he's at the point where he's at. He still thinks of them as kind of like they're doing bad things, but they're okay people. I get money from them once in a while. And so they have Sam be a lookout for them, for the police. So they're trying to show him like, hey, if you see the police coming, just whistle. And there's a little moment where Sam, he can't whistle, and so he's trying to, he's trying to teach. Cyrus is trying to teach Sam how to whistle and be like, you got to whistle like this, and Sam just can't do it. And then at one point he's like whistling, but nothing's coming down. But he keeps pointing, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And then there's a cop car rolling up, so he's trying to alert him as best he can, but he can't quite get the whistle out. But it turns out those cops are working with Cyrus, and he's like, "Hey kid, you got to learn how to whistle." And then he drives off. And then so he learns that, something's not quite right here. He's working with these corrupt cops and whatnot. It turns out they're going to torture this one police officer who might foil their plan to take down the power grid. And so one of the hench people, takes like a what do you call that? It was like a welding torch, right?
In a way, yeah. It was like a welding torch. But, it's like, they found whatever's in the warehouse, and they just found it, and they just want to,
So they have the police officer.
Stuff.
They have the police officer, like, tied to a chair. They take a welding torch, and they're threatening to burn him with it. Like, we thought we could trust you. You could jeopardize this whole operation. He's like, no, I'll run away, man. I'll forget everything. Don't worry, I won't say anything. And then they're like, okay, you better get the fuck out of here. And then they let him go. And then Cyrus shoots the police officer in the back, kills him. And he's like, hey, sometimes you just got to give people a little hope before I guess saying before he takes him out. He found pleasure in giving him hope, thinking he was going to get out alive. And then the kid realizes he's evil, and then he runs away. And then I think it's at that point he knows that he's on the wrong side. And so at this point, Sam running away, he runs into Reza, and he's beating up on Jace, that guy that got him to go and steal the copper wiring with him earlier in the movie. And he tries to defend him. So with his newly found fighting skills, he tries to beat up the crew. And he gets in a few punches, but he gets knocked out. And then Reza and the crew, they put him in like a shopping cart or something?
Yep.
And then they start rolling him around. And then Joe, up in his apartment building, he sees the guys rolling Sam in the cart. And the guys see him, and they think they killed him. They thought they had killed the old man, but they see him alive, standing up in his apartment building. And so they run the fuck away, and they go and tell Cyrus that, hey, the old guy that we killed is still alive. We think he might be Samaritan, because at that point there had been some reports of Samaritan running around, I think, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and so now they think that, hey, maybe this guy, there's no way he should have survived. He could be Samaritan. And then so Cyrus is like, if this is true, I want to talk to that old man. Basically bring him to me.
And then of course there's a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah. And so he sends his crew out to go and beat up Joe and bring him back to Cyrus. And of course that doesn't end well. He beats the shit out of those guys.
Yep.
Yeah, and there's one last guy standing, and he gets one of those stupid, those blackout bombs?
Yep.
And he's like, here, dodge this, or whatever. He says some stupid, villain one-liner. But there was this little girl nearby, and so he grabs her, and he flips over a car to block the bomb, and then there's a bunch of people filming on their cell phones, and then it goes big in the news that, hey, Samaritan is alive and well, and he saved this girl and whatnot.
Yep.
And so the news is out. Samaritan, he's out and about and running around the city.
He's a hero, all right.
And of course, this doesn't bode well for Cyrus, who wants to be the new Nemesis, because he's going to foil his plan. He feels like he's going to foil his plan to fulfill the original Nemesis's plan. And so he desperately wants to take him out. So they decide that if they want to capture Samaritan, they have to capture the kid, so that way they can kind of bait him into going into their hands. So what they do is they kidnap the kid. So at one point they're chasing Sam and his mom, and for some reason they get in the elevator, remember? And then they decide to go up to the roof, which was a stupid idea. You think they would want to get out of the building, but then they go up to the roof and they get pinned up there. And when they get up there, it's like this terrible green screen. It reminded me of that movie, The Room. And there's one point where Cyrus, and it even has it's almost like a similar construction to the rooftop in The Room. And he walks out of that little doorway that leads to the roof, and I almost expected him to be like,
"It's not true. It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not."
"Hi, Mark. I did not hit her. I did not." Yeah, it was, and then the green screen was just as bad. Like, there's no reason a green screen should look that bad nowadays. Especially, I'm sure they had not a huge budget, but I'm sure they had more of a budget than The Room. I mean, it was made by MGM, for God's sake. So
owned by Stallone.
Yeah.
The rights are owned
so anyway,
by
it was on the
Stallone.
rooftop. Is where they decide, okay, they're going to kidnap the kid. That way we can bring Joe to us. And he has like this bad ADR line.
"That's why I gotta take you, so Nemesis can finally kill Samaritan."
And it's like, you can see it was like badly recorded after the fact. And he has like this gravelly, like Batman, like Christian Bale Batman voice. Like, just so you know he's a villain, he has like this evil gravelly voice.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you see Joe moping around. He at some point, I guess Sam had this broken watch that he promised to fix for him. So Joe takes the broken watch back to Sam, and that's when he sees the mom sitting there moping all alone, crying, and then he asks what's wrong, and that's when she says that Sam has been kidnapped, and so now he's got to go look for Sam. So it's on at this point. So
He's back.
So Joe, he goes back to his I don't know, I guess where he works. He grabs he works as a trash man. And he goes and grabs a trash truck, loads up the back with a bunch of barrels of I don't know what. They never reveal what's in those barrels. Maybe he just does it to weigh it down or something. And he drives right into Cyrus's like warehouse of evil. And he takes on gunfire. They're like shooting at him, and he just plows right through them and swerves right into their building. Just crashes into their evil warehouse of doom, and he starts taking them on, one by one. They're shooting at him, but he's bulletproof. He's fighting them. He's getting hurt, but he's still powering through because he's super strong, even though he's old, and he's gonna save the kid. And basically, that's this whole scene at this point. He's just kind of beating the shit out of people. And so finally, he finds the kid. He's being held at knife point by one of the henchmen. It was a henchwoman. Her name is Syl, apparently. And so she has the kid at knife point, and he finally confronts the new Nemesis, which is Cyrus. And Cyrus has the hammer that supposedly is forged out of pure hatred. He's going to have a showdown with Joe, and he's at first he's beating the shit out of him, and then eventually Joe gets the upper hand. He's starting to win the fight, and I think he gets a hold of the hammer at some point. And then it's at this point we have a big revelation in the movie.
Dun, dun, dun.
Spoiler alert. That's where I'm going to put the big spoiler. There's a huge Shyamalan-style twist in this movie.
Yep.
Which is funny because you could tell this is modeled a lot
different.
After Unbreakable. It's a huge Shyamalan twist. So if you don't want to know the Shyamalan twist, you better you mute the video or shut it off, whatever, and then go watch it, come back. But it turns out that Joe reveals he's not Samaritan. He's actually Nemesis. Samaritan died in the blast, and he is Nemesis. So that's a big revelation.
Yep. Did not see that coming.
Yeah. What did you think about that?
That was weird. I mean, like, it was like I thought they were going to keep it to the script, but all of a sudden I was like, wow.
Yeah. So Joe knocks. I think at this point, Cyrus runs away with the kid, right? Because I think what's his face? Joe. I think he ends up killing that lady Syl who had the kid at knife point, and then Cyrus runs off with the kid as a hostage, and Joe has to finish off the rest of the henchmen, and he's getting in some good one-liners. There's one point where that guy who threw the bomb at him earlier.
Yep.
And then he has like this epic one-liner where he takes the bomb from him and he shoves it in his stomach, and then he's like,
I will blast.
I love that.
A bit.
Are you a fan of great one-liners in action
Yep.
movies?
I'm
I
a fan.
think out of everybody, Arnold Schwarzenegger takes the cake for good one-liners, but I say he had a couple of good one-liners in this.
Yep. Stallone and Schwarzenegger are legends.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, were they like rivals back in the day?
Oh yeah. There was this interview on Jimmy Fallon, and Stallone was on the talk show, and he said, Stallone said, him and Schwarzenegger were enemies back then, but now they're not. They're friends.
Yeah, I think that rivalry is long over. But that fight scene. What did you think overall about that fight scene at the warehouse?
Very, very, very 90s. Very, very.
Yeah, it's very, very
awesome.
Typical action flick. He's very stuck in that action star mode.
He's like Rambo. Rambo meets Steel.
Yeah, exactly. And besides that one kill with the grenade in the stomach, I think my favorite kill was he attacks this guy. He's holding like a fire extinguisher, right? And he like knocks off the end of it, and then the guy's holding onto the fire extinguisher, and he goes flying around the room. He's like a cartoon character. It was like Wile E. Coyote or something. He was some ridiculous shit, but it was funny.
Yep, it was funny.
Yeah. Well, at this point, the building's like on fire, and it's ridiculously bad, like special effects.
Yep.
They should have died from smoke inhalation a long time ago. I can understand if Sylvester Stallone's character survived, but like, there's no reason why
big action hero.
Cyrus wasn't a superhero, or he didn't have superpowers, and the kid definitely, he shouldn't have survived all that smoke. They were in there for a good like 15, 20 minutes or more while the flames were going, and he wasn't even sweaty. Like the kid, he didn't have any sweat on him. Like he wasn't coughing from the smoke. They were standing. This building is completely engulfed in flames. But not to get too off topic.
Not to get too off topic.
I just thought it was ridiculously bad.
Well, just it is what it is. You know, this movie brings thrills and a twist, and oh my.
So anyway, Joe's a coming after him. He has the hammer now, and he's gonna go beat up Cyrus. So anyway, Sam is in this burning room alone, and then Joe comes to save him. It turns out that Cyrus is waiting for him, and he for some reason Joe just like drops the hammer and then goes to get the kid. It's like, why don't you keep the hammer? I think he has a way of strapping it on his back, but he decides to drop it, and then Cyrus gets a hold of it and tries to beat him up again. And he's like, I'm gonna, I didn't, because now he realizes at this point he's Nemesis, and he's like, you were too weak to finish your plan last time. I'm gonna finish what you should have, finished. And he's basically berating him for not finishing his plan.
Yep, random stuff, but still a good movie.
It's just weird because he's supposed to be like
rental.
He's supposed to be like a Nemesis fanboy, but I guess the fact that he's trying to kill him is he's no longer a Nemesis fanboy. So I don't know why he's still taking on that moniker, but whatever. He wants to finish his plan nonetheless. And then Joe, he keeps saying that there never was a plan. It was all just a trap or something like that. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly the backstory there. And Cyrus tries to kill Sam, but Joe, he gets his strength up, and he throws Cyrus into a burning pit. And it's giving him flashbacks from when his brother, which is Samaritan, died in a similar fashion. He died in an explosion. And so he's getting flashbacks of when he was on the rooftop with his brother, and that was like that's when they showed it was a similar scene from when the big reveal. They showed was Nemesis take off the mask, and it turns out it was a badly de-aged Sylvester Stallone. And that's how we found out he was Nemesis, and so he keeps having flashbacks to that big fight with his brother.
They dropped the Samaritan mask, and he has a Nemesis mask, and we don't know what's going on. So.
Yeah, and so it was a similar scene after he killed Cyrus. He had the damaged Nemesis mask that used to be his, and he dropped it into the flames just like he did the first time. And at this point, for some reason, Sam, like I mentioned earlier, Sam is still alive, even though he's standing in a building that should be way too hot to survive in. He should have, passed out from smoke inhalation, but no, he was fine. He was still kicking it. He wasn't even coughing. And the one who's having trouble here is Joe, because remember, like I mentioned earlier, when he gets hurt, he overheats, and his heart is gonna explode, and so he has to cool down. So Sam, he breaks that pipe. Remember?
Yep. And the water comes out, and it just shoots. It just shoots a whole bunch of water, and all of a sudden, it cools him off.
Well, not quite, because remember, he knocks the pipe. It shoots the water for like a couple seconds, and then the water runs out, and then he realizes that there wasn't enough water in the pipe. And then so he's on the verge of having his heart explode, and so he's like, Joe, you have to power through it. You have to power through, and somehow, just because the kid really wanted it bad enough for him to survive, he survived somehow, even though his body wasn't cooling down properly. The kid willed him into getting better, which is kind of silly because they set up this whole thing about if he doesn't cool down properly, then his heart will explode. But then the kid begged him to survive, and so he survived. Which is,
Yep,
it's kind of silly. What do you think about that?
It was really, really different, but I have to say I have to give it a high rental. Very, very high rental.
We'll get to our opinions on it in a bit, but yeah, and then so the kid confronts him later on after he, the big reveal that he was Samaritan, or that he was Nemesis. He's like, "Is it true? Is this true?" And then you could tell, it was true. And then he's like, and the kid's like, "You can still fix this. Like, you can make things right, even though you were Nemesis. Basically, you can right what once went wrong, like Sam Beckett." And then I think Joe, he goes on to say that good and bad live in everybody's heart. It's up to you to make the right choice. So saying that there's two sides to the story. Even though he was Nemesis, he had good intentions, and even Samaritan didn't always have good intentions. Not everyone is 100% evil. Even though in this movie, like the villains were so like cartoonishly evil and stuff like that. I think it was funny that they were making that point that the good isn't always good and evil isn't always evil. It was a funny movie to make that point in, but anyway, it's kind of ironic.
Yep, very ironic.
And so, Sam, he's alive. He goes out. The news crew is waiting outside, after all the crazy stuff going on. The building's on fire, and he goes to tell them. You think he might reveal to the news that it's not Samaritan, it's Nemesis that's alive, but he decides to say that Samaritan saved me. He saved my life. And then, so he's basically kind of rewriting the narrative here and saying that, you know what, even though he was Nemesis, he's a good guy now. He changed his life, and now he's the new Samaritan, essentially. And so it's essentially, it's kind of a story of, good isn't always all good, and evil isn't always all evil, and you can choose how you want to change things, and you can choose to be a better version of yourself, and not you're not stuck as what you were in the past. You can always be something better.
Yep,
that's what I got out of it. I mean, if you're gonna get anything,
if you're gonna get anything out of this lesson movie and whatnot, and it's a really, really good movie, and I give it a high rental.
I have to disagree with you on that one. I mean, if you want to. Maybe if you have Amazon Prime, you might as well experience it. It's good for some laughs. Rental. It's good for some laughs. Like I said, it tries to be unbreakable, and it just comes off as steel.
From the great thespian Shaquille O'Neal himself.
Yeah. I definitely, I don't think it's a great movie. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone as hey, this is as a good movie. But I would say if you have Prime already, check it out. It's good for a few laughs. It's nothing special. It's not like one of those laugh out loud, so bad it's good movies, but it's kind of corny. It's very old school. It reminds me of like something that should have been made like decades ago.
Yep.
Yeah, not my favorite.
It looked like Gladiator with Russell Crowe a little bit.
No, that one was actually a good movie.
Yep.
But all in all, it was fairly entertaining. Gave me a few chuckles. It was fun just to see Sylvester Stallone beat up some people, right?
Yep.
What would you say is your favorite part about this movie?
Sylvester Stallone just beating the shit out of people.
Yeah, I like the one-liners. I mean, there wasn't nearly enough one-liners, but the couple of one-liners it sufficed. I don't know. There wasn't too much to like about this movie. What would you rate it out of 5?
10 out of 10.
10. I said out of 5.
Oh, 5 out of 5.
5 out of 5. You're way too generous with movies, man.
Yep, it appears I am.
Ooh. I would say I'd give it out of 5. I would give it a 2.5 out of 5. The half is being generous.
That is pretty generous.
I can't believe you. If 5. No, 5's generous. That's a 2.5 out of 5. Like I said, that mostly is based off of the parts that I liked. Like I said, the corniness of it. Just having a good chuckle out of it. But it was definitely it left me wanting more. Like I feel like it could have really had a good point to it, and it had an interesting like kind of moral to the story. But it didn't really have much to it other than that. Like it tried to be, not one-dimensional, but at the same time, it was executed very one-dimensionally. And I think it just fell flat in that aspect. But, that's just my opinion, man.
In my opinion, the movie is just it's so different, but it is very, very, very unique, very good. And I would give this a high rental if you have Amazon Prime, everyone.
Yeah, check it out. I definitely wouldn't get Amazon Prime just to see this movie. But if you have Amazon Prime already, well, just give it a watch. I mean,
not on DVD yet, but
I wouldn't call it the worst thing I've seen, but it was definitely pretty bad. And like you said, you might get a few laughs out of it.
You might get a few laughs of it. You might get a few laughs out of it, but it's a guilty pleasure movie. In a way.
You know what? I would kind of say it is.
Yeah.
I wouldn't watch it again. I would say more of a guilty pleasure movie is something I would watch again and again, knowing it's bad, but I don't care. This one is like, I give it a watch, just to see, what it's all about, and then dispose of it.
Yep.
Well, I believe this brings us to a close on this episode of The Men Who Watch Movies. We want to thank everyone for watching. Thank you for the views. Make sure to like and subscribe, as they all say. It's been a pleasure doing this episode. We had a fun time, and we hope to do more. We'll put out a new episode every Friday.
Yep.
And go ahead and check out our Twitter, @MenWatchMovies.
Yep.
It'd be much appreciated. We post some fun stuff on there, and we hope to see you next week. And we got to remind you to
keep on watching.
Thank you, everybody.
See you soon.
Oh, yeah.